It is still spring training, but this is not any other ordinary spring training game. This is the spring breakout game, and here to break it down for us is Captain's broadcaster Logan Petoskey.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Justin Ladd. On today's show, we are calling in a pinch hitter from Arizona for Jeff today. We're going to be talking about the Guardians Spring Breakout roster, what to expect with Captain's broadcaster Logan Petoskey. This is Locked On Guardians. I am your host, Justin Ladd. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. I was formerly the editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider, also a contributor to the News Herald and the Morning Journal. I'll be contributing to the season preview section for the Guardians this year, so make sure you get a copy the day before the opener, also at Prospects Live, and join me over on my Substack where I cover the Guardians minor league system at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. And one of the broadcasts I've run into over the years that I've enjoyed talking to the last several years, getting to know, is Logan Petoskey. Logan, welcome to your call up to Locked On Guardians, and also happy birthday, 24, on the day everyone is hearing this. So give Logan some birthday shout outs. He's celebrating in Arizona with some baseball and some sunshine. What could be better?
That's right, Justin. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, just hoping I can bring any warm weather that I can back to Northeast Ohio, Lake County country. But, looking forward to this spring breakout. Always great to see the prospects get a chance to put on a great show for the fans.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, warm weather, it's okay in Cleveland. It's not cold, but it's not as warm. There's some warm weather coming this week. You probably won't bring any back anytime soon. What you can bring, though, is some fun chat about the Guardians Spring Breakout game. So we touched on the rosters a little on previous episodes. Everydayers will probably remember that. But we didn't really spend a whole lot of time on the rosters. And I'd really love to talk about this roster now that we have it, who's on it, who we're going to see. And this is the first chance for a lot of, I think, casual fans, not casual, but guys, people who are going to tune in that maybe necessarily don't. So last year's Spring Breakout game obviously was not televised. It was on the radio only, or even I think on MLB.com audio. This year, you can check it out at MLB.com, Guardians TV, MLB Network. You can also listen to the Guardians broadcast where you'll hear Logan, you'll hear Marco LaNave and Jim Davis alongside Jim Clark, not Jim Davis. I know Jim. I shouldn't get that wrong. Yeah, Jim Clark, Akron broadcaster. So they'll be all on the air together. I think I'm still kind of learning the Guardians TV thing, MLB TV thing. I think you can sync up your guys' audio with the video if you have Guardians or MLB TV. So I think people can listen to you guys and they can watch. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. So that's exciting. But Logan and I, we had a good time last year, getting to know each other a little more and covering the captains last season. A lot of prospects that are on this roster. We're not only in Lake County last year. Some of them were even on the roster from a season ago as well in the spring breakout game. But I think obviously let's start off with everybody's going to know Travis Bazzana, right? I think everybody at this point is pretty familiar with who that is. If you're not, then I have no idea where you've been if you haven't listened to the show. But the rest of the roster, I feel like there's a lot of diehard fans that probably know, but casual fans may not. Like I think people have heard of Jason Churio just because he's got a famous older brother who's really good. And I'm trying to think who else that people would really know on here. Like Tugboat. I feel like everybody knows Tugboat because a lot of Prospect fans saw the 16 strikeout game a year ago and all the news around him. But let's start out with the guys that are more famous. Like Travis Bazzana is going to start. I think he should hit leadoff. I think we can safely say that, right? You should put Travis Bazzana at second base and leadoff. No questions there, right? We have no idea who's going to start, but if they're taking suggestions, I think we can go there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, second base leadoff, that's exactly the only thing that he ended up doing during his time with Lake County in 2024. But just taking an initial look at the roster, a lot of guys who were around that high A, double A level for the most part. If it's me just kind of trying to loosely go around the diamond a little bit, there's a lot of different options at that starting pitcher spot. You bring up Matt Tugboat Wilkinson, finished second in minor league baseball in a slew of categories during his time with Lynchburg and Lake County. I think Austin Peterson would potentially come to mind as well. He's got a strong, about 6'6", 6'7" frame. Tied the minor league lead in wins last year. Led the minor leagues in WHIP across Lake County and Akron. He's a very talented right-handed pitcher. He's someone who I think could potentially be your starter. Parker Messick as well. I believe he's around that. I think he's 16th according to MLB Pipeline. Great left-handed pitching prospect as well out of Florida State. That's probably another guy to look for as a starting pitcher. I don't know if we want to go all the way around the diamond right away or just kind of come up with a couple names that we would probably think are locks. I think Angel Henao, Jason Churio, and Ralphie Velasquez, along with, I'd say, Cooper Ingel. Those are probably a few where I'd say, like, if you asked who are locks to start, those are probably, the first few I'd say probably going to be getting that starting lineup spot, if you're asking me.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Yeah, Jason Churio, I think, should be playing probably center field. Obviously, a guy who was in the Futures game a year ago. Our regular listeners, our everydayers, know that Jeff and I love Austin Peterson. I would definitely, I don't know. I'm torn between Peterson and Messick for the guy who should start. So last year, for people who aren't familiar, Doug Nikhazy started this game, and he actually pitched 3 innings, and it's a 7-inning game. I forgot to mention that. It's a 7-inning game. So we're talking about a 7-inning spring training game. So this is probably going to be an episode where people are like, really, this is what you're talking about? But I'm excited for this game. I always tell Jeff, Jeff's not a big fan of spring training. I love spring training because it's wacky rules, right? You get like 3 entries and all that kind of stuff. And you also get to see guys that are prospects that get in at the end of games. And then you have games like this where you're getting guys. It's a prospect game. It's only 7 innings. I begging and pleading with Major League Baseball for the Futures game to go back to 9 innings. I don't know what we're doing, wasting time with a 7-inning game. I get people are afraid of like injuries, whatever, and you don't want to get guys hurt, but like carry enough guys to go 9 innings, and they have enough guys in this roster to go 9 innings. And these are guys fans should get excited about. I mean, the Guardians are a top 5 farm system. There is Travis Bazzana, but yeah, you mentioned like Angel Henao, I think is a guy who's a top 100 prospect universally now. And, you and I both saw a ton of him. I even saw like on Fangraphs, like Angel Henao, I think on Fangraphs is ranked ahead of Travis Bazzana. Can you make an argument for that? And I'm hoping that the starting lineup is Bazzana at second and Angel Henao at shortstop, because that's just a great double play combo. Like, I think for my money, Henao can play short. He's gotten bigger. He's got a great arm. There's some things to clean up with the arm a little bit, but super exciting bat. Bazzana, obviously we know about. Cooper Ingel might have a chance to be a 2-year starter. This is the second annual game. He started last year, so he'll have a chance to start this one again. I think first base is a real question, because you got Ralphie Velasquez, who is like, the top dog in terms of like first base prospects in the system. But CJ Kafis, man, he was good at Lake County last year. He was good at first at Akron. He cooled off a little bit. I heard he had an injury. That's why he cooled off. But he's closer to the big leagues. Like, maybe CJ Kafis should start. I think the problem is last year, you pointed this out to me, most of the start, there was no substitutions last year. All 9 guys played all 7 innings. It's hard to play 2 guys in 7 innings, but I think this year we should see, let's see CJ, let's see Ralphie, let's see Henao, let's see Bazzana, let's see Luis Morejo. We'll talk about those guys in a little bit, but I think they should go with Kafis at first and then Ralphie come in later in the game.
Yeah, it's really a 1A, 1B there. And the beauty with both of them is, who knows if you'll see it in the starting lineup, but they both got sprinkled into left field a little bit last year. So do you maybe put one in left, one at first base? Time is going to tell. But looking at the top 30 really quick, we talk about him being a 1A, 1B. Ralphie Velasquez, number 5 in MLB Pipeline's preseason top 30 for Cleveland. CJ Kafis is at number 8. And you have a slew of those top 30 on the Spring Breakout roster right now. I'll kind of just go along real quickly about who's all there. Bazzana is number 1 for Cleveland in MLB Pipeline's top 30. He's on the roster. Jason Churio, 3. Angel Henao, 4. Ralphie Velasquez, 5. Welbin Francisca, 6. Cooper Ingel, 7. CJ Kafis, 8. Parker Messick, 14. Jacob Cozart, 16. Let me see who else. There's a lot on the roster here. Jackson Humphreys at 18. Michael Kennedy, 19. Josh Hartle, 23. Alfonso Rosario, 26. Petey Halpin 28, Luis Morejo 29, and Austin Peterson 30. I believe that's all of them. I may have missed one or two because, again, there are so many names on the roster. But you talk about all that talent that Cleveland has. Over the past few years, a lot of the knowledge of the player development was that it's that pitching, and it seemed like pitching prospects dominated those top 10s, top 30s, but the position players are now evening that playing field, and it's really great to see because not only is the pitching development continuing to be that strong of a group, but that position player group, you can put that up against almost just about anybody in minor league baseball. So, and the thing with like those kind of like subs not really playing in last year's spring breakout game, I kind of feel like, last year was the first year of it. So it was kind of a trial run, if you will, trying to see how's it going to shape up, how's it going to work. Maybe 7 innings gets changed at some point soon. We'll have to see. You feel like 9 is probably a bit better considering you have so many players. You want to try to get just about everyone at least a chance to play. And I really like this concept because you think of a major league all-star team. You have all the players, in your major league group. They all are representing your team on that kind of all-star stage. Like for the prospects, since you kind of don't have those mid-season all-star games anymore for your leagues, I think it was right after COVID, those ended up stopping. You just had postseason all-stars. You're getting a kind of minor league all-star game here. There's obviously so many teams, so many different leagues. It's kind of hard to have it under one umbrella, one minor league all-star game with so many more players. But I feel like it's such a cool opportunity to have like, hey, this is an all-star team, your whole organization full of prospects, all levels, give them your best and put them against another team's best or more than one team if you play more than one game. So I'm really excited to see it in person this season.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I agree. 9 innings. Let's make the pitch. I think say that on air. They'll say we got to get this game to 9 innings. We got to get back to 9 innings. Yeah, I think you can get your starters like 3 at bat, 2 at bats, and get your backups 1. I'm not really sure like what the goal of managing this. I don't even know who's managing the game. We should talk about that too. But all right, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the pitchers. Maybe we could talk about how we would roll out the pitching staff in this game, who we like the most. I think we're also going to talk about who has the chance to make the biggest impression because everybody knows I love. It's definitely a showcase. Obviously, that's something everybody knows I love on this show. We'll talk about that in just a second. Managing your money, boy, something we all have to get a little bit better at these days. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? You got dining, online shopping, entertainment. We lose track so fast, right? That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's a personal CFO app. It gives you full visibility and control into your finances. It's not just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. You can track every account you have, investments and spending all in one place. So stop managing your money and start building your wealth. When you use apps like Monarch Money, you can realize exactly how much you're spending on things like food delivery, get smarter, and budget a little bit better. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even adjust your long-term planning goals. Also, a lot of very easy collaboration tools. You can manage your money with your partner easier than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without any of the stress that comes with talking about money. So take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. You're going to use our code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thank you for making it this far into today's Locked On Guardians. If you did, consider becoming an insider. We're having lots of chats over on the Insiders group, talking about spring breakout rosters, talking about that day's rosters, injury updates. Any questions that come to mind, you can shoot them over on the Insiders group. I just gave all of our insiders access to my full ebook of prospect scouting reports. It's over there. That's 43 prospects plus 7 that just missed. That's 2024 graduated prospects, 2025 prospect predictions. All of our insiders have access. It's a 90-page ebook, by the way, just so you know. It's 90 pages. So if you want access to all that Guardians minor league writing, it's over there for you on the Insiders. It's on your screen. It's also in your show description. The link is there to join us over there. And over here, we're talking to Logan, the captain's broadcaster, who will be broadcasting the Guardians Spring Breakout game over the weekend. We talked a lot about some of the position players. We talked about pitching a little bit, but let's talk about pitching a little bit more. I don't know. I am on the fence. Like you and I, obviously we talked about it. You and I are both big Austin Peterson guys. Jeff loves Austin Peterson. Parker Messick is an interesting guy. He's a little higher in the pecking order because he got to Akron a little bit sooner. Both these guys are a little bit older. Peterson's, I think, older than Messick, but Messick beat him to AA, which is strange. I don't know. I feel like probably Messick is going to get the start. That's my prediction. I'm going to say Messick is going to get the start because he is higher in the pecking order, it feels like. But I would definitely start Peterson because he is older. I would start Peterson in AAA. I have no idea if he is, but I would. But I would like to see both Messick and Peterson get like, I don't know, at least Doug Casey got 3 innings last year. I would throw Messick out there for 2, at least 2, depending on how the pitch count goes, and then I would go to Peterson, and then we can talk about who goes from there. But is there anybody else in this pitching roster that you would start, or are you between Peterson and Messick, or do you have a preference yourself?
It's a good problem to have, just considering how much talent that both of them have. I feel like if you put a third in the mix, it could be Matt Wilkinson potentially. But I kind of just feel like having that AA experience under their belts, I'm probably going Messick or Peterson if I'm making my guess. If you had another potential maybe wild card to throw in there, Aaron Davenport may come to mind, but I would kind of see him more so coming out of the bullpen in a game like this. But yeah, I would think we're in the same boat. It seems like Messick or Peterson. It's again another one of those 1A 1B situations. Messick, a great left-handed pitcher. Peterson, a great right-handed pitcher. So only time's going to tell. But regardless, hoping that they can put on a great show and show everybody the stuff that they bring because they have a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't want to read too much into who's going to start because, like, at the end of the day, this is still an exhibition. It's 7 innings, so you don't want to be like, oh, they're starting this pitcher, so that means they like them more or something. And it might have a lot to do with who's pitching, right? Because like we're not considering like games in the backfield and who threw a bullpen a couple of days ago. So they also have to go by these guys' schedule. So like, yeah, I think you're right. Like I can easily see Aaron Davenport pitching in this game. No offense to Davenport, he actually is the senior guy on this roster. If you look at like experience and age, him and Jack Leftwich have been around the longest. I'm just not as high on Davenport. Like the fastball is a little inelegant for me. It's low 90s. The curveball's great. Control hasn't always been great. He does have the best head of hair on the roster, I will say. So we'll give that to him. He does have the surfer hair. I love that. Like for me, like Messick throws a little harder. He's a little more well-known of a prospect. I think being a little younger, I think helps him out. But like to me, Messick and Peterson are very similar. Like they both have great control. They both have great changeups. They both have, kind of low 90s fastballs. Whereas like Messick does it with deception, right? It's that weird arm angle that makes his fastball play up. Whereas Peterson, the delivery is not as deceptive, but he gets so much extension. Like he is out in front of home plate with that delivery. So like I have Peterson, I think a little bit ahead of Messick personally for that reason. And I also love the slider he's got too. Not that Messick doesn't have a bad slider either, but yeah, it is 1A, 1B. I think I prefer Peterson a little bit. I'm kind of hoping too. I know this isn't. I think Tugboat should factor in here. Like everybody knows Tugboat, right? Like everybody remembers the headlines from a year. We've had Jeff Ponce on from Baseball America. If you're an everydayer, he talked about the unique characteristics of his fastball. Dude's got a lot of control. I think it'd be worth seeing him in this game. The guys I want to see, though, like I want to see like Michael Kennedy and Josh Hartle, the guys that came over in that Pittsburgh trade that flipped Spencer Horowitz from the Andres Jimenez trade. I would love to see what they have, and I kind of want to see like Zane Morehouse was fun to watch last year, right? And I also would love to see Jackson Humphreys. I think Jackson Humphreys has been behind the 8 ball a little bit. That's a guy that should start the year in Lake County, I think, as well, who has good stuff, just hasn't had the best luck health-wise and hasn't been as consistent. But the guys I would follow with, I would say if it's not Messick or Peterson to start, like I would go with those two. And I would definitely throw like a Zane Morehouse, and I would definitely throw one of the other lefties, like a Humphreys or a Kennedy or a Hartle behind that. And potentially a Magnus Ellerts, who's been in some big league games this spring.
Yeah, there's been a bevy of options on this spring breakout roster. I mean, you talk about Magnus Ellerts. He's someone who really found a strong groove. I'm speaking, of course, for his time with Lake County. I believe it was 11 of 12 saves he converted. Strong frame, great fastball. I believe he has a cutter in that arsenal as well. And, that kind of, if he can, keep on that high trajectory, like you do have another reliever, in Cleveland who's got a strong fastball and that, he's way upper 90s and into the triple digits is Emmanuel Clase with a strong cutter. Those are the two foundational pitches. Ellert's kind of the same way, but he's got a bit of a taller frame than him. But, that's like another name where like, hey, there's a lot of the talent there. He's got the numbers to show for it too. The ranking, across the prospect rankings might not show, which is another reason why this, showcase I think is an awesome thing for minor and major league baseball, because you get to see some of those guys where like, hey, we know there's the highly touted guys and they're doing well as they should be. They have the rankings that they do. But who are some of those guys who are under the radar? Like, who are those diamonds in the rough where it's like they're not getting maybe that recognition yet? But you're going to see them in this game. Be like, hey, I didn't know who that guy was before the game, but after the game, I'm following this guy, all the rest of the way through. So I'm excited to see who breaks out in this spring breakout game, and also for who continues to show why they have the rankings that they do.
So last year, I'll just say there are a lot of guys on the roster from a year ago that are now on the 40-man roster. I won't say how many, so I'll say that when we come back, but I'll talk about maybe guys who can put themselves on the radar for this year from this game. We'll talk about that. I think I also want to touch a little bit on guys we think could break out and, just what we expect to see in this game. So we'll do some predictions too. That'll be a lot of fun. So stick around for more of that on today's Locked On Guardians. Wonderful pistachios. If you're going to the baseball game, that's definitely a snack you want to crack into is wonderful pistachios. Love a good nut at a baseball game. You want to crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Delicious and nutritious, one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, gives you 10% of your daily value. What could be better? Plus, they're packed with fiber, better for your unsaturated fats, helps you keeping fuller longer. So it's the ideal snack for a long baseball game or a 7-inning baseball game. It's also ideal if you're running in your car. No shells variety, very easy. In-shell options are also a classic favorite. You can eat it as a snack in your car at your desk. Keeps things a little bit less messy, and you always get your protein on the go. So get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Talking all things Guardians Spring Breakout roster today with Logan Petoskey from the Lake County Captains. Mentioned earlier, happy birthday, man! I can't imagine a better birthday gift to me. I know the game's not Friday or not Thursday when you're doing this, but it's Friday. We'll just count it as your birthday. That's got to be like the best birthday gift ever. I mean, this is what? How many? You want to say on air how old you are at this point? But it's got to be like up there in terms of like birthdays, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's the first time I've ever had any kind of broadcast like at that kind of major league level, being on, I think we're going to be on MLB.com, CLEGuardians.com audio. So it's, an absolute pleasure watching the prospects represent the major league club, while in the minor leagues. So kind of feel like I'm doing the same. So it's an honor and a pleasure to do that. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with the prospects too, going from 23 to 24. So, at that kind of age, yeah, right. At that like kind of age, you're like, that I'm on the younger side for sure too. But like when you like start to see some of those birthdays and it's like 2006, 2007, 2008,
don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Time flies when you're having fun. We'll say that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if the Guardians. So I just turned 36. I'm trying to think if the Guardians have anybody in the roster older than me. It's not. If there is, it's very few. Last year was Carlos Carrasco. That was great, but those are getting few and far between as my birthdays got there. So last year, guys on the 40-man roster, guys who were not on the 40-man roster that are now. Kyle Manzardo was on the 40-man roster. So was John Kenzie Noel. So those guys were in the game. Petey Halpin now is on the 40-man roster. He was the leadoff hitter a year ago. Juan Brito played third base. He is now on the 40 as well. And then 4 pitchers last year's game. Doug Nikhazy, now a 40-man roster member. He had a great game last year, and now he's on the 40. I know he just walked in like the entire city of Scottsdale the other day. But he's on the 40-man roster now. Nick Enright pitched in this game a year ago. He's in the 40 now. And Andrew Walters, who made his debut late in the season in 2024, he was on the roster. So lots of chances for guys who maybe aren't on the 40 or are 40 fringe guys to make an impact. Like I think we both expect. My prediction is I think Travis Bazzana loves the spotlight. Like I think this is a guy who wanted to go number one. He took less money to go number one because he wanted it. And he wants to put Australian baseball on the map. So like I'm totally going to predict that Travis Bazzana, I know he hasn't had the best spring, but he's going to be facing other prospects and facing other prospects. Like, let's be honest, you're facing other guys that are 19, 20, 24, maybe. We're not talking about facing like, the Shohei Otanis and the big guns of the world, but still top prospect versus top prospect is good. So I fully expect Travis Bazzana to put on a show. I think that's just the kind of guy he is. So like, I can sit here and say, like, they're not picking MVPs, but like, if you want to pick a guy who is going to shine in this game, I think it's definitely Travis Bazzana. But guys who could put them, so you can tell me who you think is going to shine too. But I think guys who could put their stamp on this that are like close to 40-man adjacent this year. I think Parker Messick is super close. So like, if he pitches, I think that's a guy that could have a performance that's memorable in terms of like future 40-man consideration. Peterson the same way too. I think if Peterson, you and I were talking about this off air, I think if Peterson has a great year this year, what he did a year ago, he is definitely on the roster. Like there's an outside chance. And I think it might be disastrous for the Guardians if Austin Peterson had to make his debut this year. But like, I think he could be good enough to do it. Cooper Ingel was the MVP of the Midwest League a year ago. So it wouldn't shock me if he had a good game. I think Ralphie Velasquez he's not really a 40-man adjacent guy. I think he's a guy who could have a big game, but like I'm trying to look across the roster, guys who are like super close. And it really is just a lot of pitchers. There aren't a lot of position players that are like 40-man adjacent. Like maybe Petey Halpin could make a name for himself in this game because he is on the 40, but like he's kind of behind there. But if I look at it, to me, I think it's pitchers that can make the mark in this game. Those are the guys that I would look and say, like, that's a guy who made a quote unquote impression, I would say, besides like Travis Bazzana.
Yeah, definitely can see that as well. I mean, first things first, you talk about Travis. You talk about him thriving in the spotlight. He definitely did so in the Midwest League playoffs last year, hit 316, had a home run. I think he had a couple of RBI as well. OPS, it was like 961 during that span, mid for his Midwest League playoffs. So he absolutely thrived on the big stage. He loved it, played very well. And you talk about that potential 40-man case. Yeah, I mean, somebody like Austin Peterson, if you're going to do something again, I'll talk about what he did with the Captains first real quick. In 14 starts, when you have 87 strikeouts to 6 walks, you have to look at that and say, my goodness, you cannot look away from that. Is how incredibly impressive that is. And then when he got to Akron, it was pretty much the same thing. 72 strikeouts to just 15 walks, and he gave you an ERA with both of those teams under 3. I mean, if he does anything remotely like that again this year with Akron, maybe getting to Columbus, it's going to be very hard to look away from. And, a breakout game like this, it's a good springboard for, hey, what's to come for next year. And yeah, like if he and Parker Messick can continue to do what they do, show the strong talent that they have on a stage like this, you just get even more eyes and ears on you because, like we said, this game's going to be televised. So a lot of people are going to get to see it, probably see some clips from the game as well. So you do anything well, lots of people are going to recognize it. The Guardians already recognize that these two are a pair of great players, Travis Bazzana as well, and just all the prospects that are on this roster. So really excited to see how it's all going to turn out for them. And then we talked about this a bit earlier. I'm intrigued to see what the prospects from the offseason trades look like. They weren't in our system before. How are they going to look now? We talked about Michael Kennedy, Josh Hartle, got them in the Pittsburgh Pirates, but Alfonso Rosario is very intriguing for me. Got him straight up for Eli Morgan from the Cubs. He was one of 3 single-A players last year with at least 16 home runs and 20 steals. So that is a great talent to be on the lookout for as well. So, yeah, just really excited. So much talent all on one team. Really looking forward to seeing it all play out on the field.
Yeah, as far as the outfield goes, we don't have a starting lineup in front of us. They're not giving that. Like, I think like definitely Cooper Ingel starting. Definitely Travis Bazzana starting. We'll see about first base. Churio in center field makes a lot of sense. There's Pete, well, maybe left. I don't know. Petey Halpin definitely is going to start. He started a year ago. The other outfield spot is interesting. Like Jorge Burgos has had some time in spring training this year. I'm not really as high on Burgos as a prospect, but Rosario is a good one to bring up. Like that's a guy who should start the year with Lake County, who does have the power speed combo. If I were penciling the lineup in for the guys I would want to see most, I would definitely be putting him in right field. I guess I'd put Petey in center just because that's generally where he plays the most. But I'd rather see Churio in center just to see if he can do it. And he might be a left fielder, and Churio we should have seen him in Lake County last year if he didn't break his wrist the last game in Lynchburg. I would pencil Rosario into right field in that lineup. That to me would be the most exciting one to see. And I hope people get a good look at Cooper Ingel. I hope Cooper Ingel has a good game too. Obviously, Cooper Ingel is a friend of Locked On Guardians. He's been on the show before, but Bo Naylor needs a big season. I'm not saying Cooper Ingel is going to make the majors this year, but like Bo Naylor needs a big year for himself offensively because Cooper Ingel's charging fast, and this is a guy who has good receiving skills. He makes contact. He's smart. He's a leader. The only thing I think the only knock on him really is the arm behind the plate, and the question is how much power is he going to have? But like between him and Travis Bazzana, like those are two guys that are on the field that are like they command the field. Those guys are leaders and they shine in big moments and they take over games. Cooper Ingel, like he could be a 2-year starter in this thing. You might say like, wow, 2 years in a spring breakout game, like 2 years in a futures game. Like when is the future, right? But he's going to be playing in this game and starting. And if he has a big year and Bo Naylor does not, like, Bo Naylor not having a good year would be bad for the Guardians. But if Cooper Ingel has a good year, 2026, we're having a conversation about is Cooper Ingel coming for that job. And if he has a big, I'm not saying if he goes 2 for 2 with 2 home runs in this game, he's going to be up or anything, but like, you could definitely get some eyes on you. This is a good way to go. And I'll say this from this perspective too, because I was joking before about showcases. I hate the word showcase. I hate it. Here's why. Because it doesn't exist. People who are everydayers know this. Showcasing in baseball does not exist. You don't call up players for 2 games in the major leagues and say, oh, they're showcasing them. Because there's so much scouting, there's so much video, there's so much data out there that you don't have to do that. This isn't the 1980s. But I'll make an exception for this game. Guardians in spring training, and maybe you're finding this out a little bit, they are notoriously tight-lipped and strict down there about who can see minor league stuff down there. Like it is Fort Knox down in Goodyear a little bit sometimes. If you go to other spring training ballparks, you can walk right up to a backfield and see practice going on. The Guardians, I did see some last year. I'm not saying you can't get in, but like other fields do allow for a little more fan access. That's just fans. They're a little bit more careful. And I understand why they're careful. I'm not saying this is like the worst thing ever. I understand why they're careful, but I also would like to see more. But this is an opportunity too for some of these guys in the system, like an Ingel, like a Cozart, like some of these pitchers, maybe a CJ Kafis or Ralphie Velasquez. You can't have 3 first basemen. You can't have, Kafis, you can't have Manzardo, and you can't have Ralphie all playing 1 or 2 positions. So like this is a chance for other scouts to see some of these prospects in not a major league game, but on a bigger stage all together. And maybe you create some buzz. You talk about things. They see some things. You know what I mean? Like, not saying it's a showcase, things they don't already know, but you create that conversation a little bit about we're seeing a little more of these prospects. Maybe there is, someone does something in this game that's memorable, and they remember that down the line, not for the Guardians, but maybe for the trade deadline.
Right. Yeah. It like you're saying, when you have all that depth, you're trying to get a lot of these players to play in one game. And, that showcase term, say I would probably have to agree with you there. Like, especially with the advent of like the analytics, the social media, just the popularity of it more. Like, I kind of feel like when I was a kid, you'd see somebody, hey, they're making their major league debut, but I'd kind of be like, cool. Like, hey, I'm hoping all the best, but I'm like, who exactly is this player? Like, where did they come from? Like, why are they getting called up now? But now it's just so much more mainstream. There's so much more access. You can see so many more things. So something like this, it's kind of like, icing on the cake for, hey, you can see some of their minor league games throughout the year, but hey, now you're going to see them represent the big league team early. this might be a lineup you could potentially see in like 2 or 3 years. But hey, you saw them when, and you're like, okay, I know exactly why these guys are here. So creating all that hype and just putting a name to a face or face to a name, vice versa, what have you. It's just another great way to do it. So really looking forward to how it goes on Friday the 14th.
Yeah, not Friday the 13th, Friday the 14th. That's that. Things will be good. Because Friday the 13th, I might be kind of concerned about one of our guys getting hurt. I didn't really look at the Mariners roster. We have to get out of here, but I didn't really look at the Mariners roster. I know Colt Emerson is on that roster, and he was a guy that they sniped in front of the Guardians a couple of years ago. I really liked him. Ryan Sloan, and yeah, that's right. He is near Columbus, right? And then there's Ryan Sloan, Durangelo Saincha, who got drafted last year for the Mariners. Tyler Locklear, who I like a lot. Lizardo Montez. Just to throw this out there too, Felon Celestin's a good one to watch. The Guardians are a consensus roughly top 5 farm system. They're like 5th to 7th on a lot of lists. The Mariners are in a similar position. So these are 2 really good farm systems. So and Harry Ford's on there. I like Harry Ford a lot, although he's kind of dipped a little bit. These are 2 good farm systems. So I also will not devalue the fact that yes, it's a 7-inning exhibition game. None of these guys are major leaguers, but these are 2 good farm systems. So this is not just the Reds and Guardians last year thrown together. I feel like at the last second, these are 2 good farm systems. So going to see a lot of talent and talent facing each other. It's not just like a throwaway game. Like I said, it's not just a regular exhibition. Jeff should be jealous. This is a good spring training game to watch. All right. I don't know if Jeff will be back tomorrow, whether or not he will be. He's got some adult responsibilities he's got to attend to. I will be here with you on Friday, no doubt. We will probably talk a little more spring breakout because it is Friday. We'll get you more hype for that. But what I will be talking about Friday is, if Jeff is here or not, we're going to talk about what is the Guardians division, their path to another division title. What do they have to do? What has to happen for them to not just repeat as division champs? We're also going to talk about what's the path to the World Series? What has to happen for the Guardians to finally break the World Series drought? It's unlikely. So we'll talk about exactly what I think and what Jeff thinks has to happen. Of course, we'll have position previews. We got to get to all of those as well. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you are downloading the episodes every day. Hit the bell on YouTube. Don't miss a video. Auto download on audio, so you're always getting the show into your feed. That helps us out a ton. You can email the show at loguardianshow@gmail.com. Subscribe to be an insider so you can get news and analysis first when things happen. We'll be ramping that up as the season goes on. I'll probably be sending some texts out to our subscribers during the breakout game because I will be watching and listening to Logan call the game. So definitely follow along there. Maybe I'll even live stream. I don't know. Maybe I will live stream. Maybe I'll be a nerd and I'll come on here. Let me know in the comments if you want me to live stream during the game, and we can chat about what's going on during the game. But make sure you're tuning into Logan first, because super excited for all those guys to get a chance to call this game, see the prospects, and see Arizona. I'll be back tomorrow with you on Locked On Guardians. Logan, once again, thanks for joining me, and going to show out there again. Have a great birthday, man. Enjoy Arizona and enjoy some baseball. Try not to have too much fun, but have fun.
Appreciate you having me on, Justin. Always a pleasure, and really excited for what's to come, and not just for the breakout, but another great season. For Lake County's sake, we're hoping to bring home another championship trophy in 2025.
That's right. Another journey. Won't be as long this time, hopefully. It'll be an exciting roster. We'll have to chat again before the season starts. You can check out Guardians of the Future podcast. Logan's been on there with me a couple times. We might chat over there about the Guardians or the captain's roster soon. Also, before we get out of here too, I should also say, Logan, where can people find your work? Where do you want people to come find you?
For sure. Yeah. Social medias are just my name at Logan Petoskey, LOGANPOTOSKY. That's X, Instagram. It's usually where I'll post a lot just about, what I'm doing and, for my case, what the captains are doing, what they're up to. And hopefully lots of fun stuff to come. Absolutely. Logan's also an East Sider too. We didn't get a chance to talk about it in the show, but he's an East Sider. I'm an East Sider. My wife got me to move west, but I am an East Sider at heart. So shout out to the East Siders of Cleveland Club too. All right. Until next time, check out all that stuff. Follow Logan. Watch the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And in the meantime, go Guardians, go. Watch the spring breakout game. Listen to the spring breakout game on Friday.